My review of NWA Worldwide Wrestling for January 5th, 1985. It was taped in Raleigh, North Carolina at the Deaton Arena on January 2nd. It opens with Don Cornetto battling Ivan Koloff, and apparently a flag match, which is described later in the show on December 25th, 1994, Christmas Day. Tony Schiavone is interviewing Dusty Rhodes and Raging Bull Manny Fernandez, who are the World Tag Team Champions of the time, and they are replying to that the Road Warriors, who are new to the area, I think they started in 1983 out of Georgia, and in AWA 1984. So now they're showing up around the Carolinas in '85. This is the beginning of '85, and the Road Warriors issued a challenge to the World Tag Team Champions. And they go to a jobber match where the Road Warriors are facing Steve Muslin and Rick McCord. Now, some observations I had to look at this for why I'm doing the reviews of these these Worldwide Wrestling episodes. The jobber match between the Road Warriors with Muslin and McCord is Dusty's really everybody who Dusty ever wrestled, any heel he's ever worked with, and now he's going to challenge a promo, he puts them over, as everybody's always said, putting them over like $1 million. And Dusty Rhodes and many other superstars have done that. Dusty Rhodes really putting the Road Warriors over. One thing, and the things I've noticed about the Road Warriors in this jobber match is they're still, and I guess in a sense they're still green, even though they've worked in two years so far. Major companies, Georgia and AWA, they're still wearing their long leather their pant chaps, as you want to describe them. The funniest thing about this interview with Dusty and Manny Fernandez, Dusty said, I assume they're watching the clip of this match, Road Warriors in this jobber match, and Dusty says, I'm not sure who is in the ring right now. It was Hawk. So I'm not sure if they're watching a match, or if they're watching this match the Road Warriors are in, or they're just assuming by just discussing. It's just strange how Dusty said, I don't know who's in the ring right now, but it was Hawk. The other thing that I noticed about the Road Warriors is they have the cheap makeup on their faces. That it's really a strange. It's not the way the modern Road Warriors we came to know years from now. They really put it fancy on years later, but they're still they may be not green as wrestlers or as the big big muscle guys. They are the big strong guys, but what they're wearing, their makeup and their long leather pants, chaps, they're still kind of green on what they're wearing. But it was just the opening that were Dusty and Manny Fernandez. They talk about this match, and they talk about the Road Warriors. It's really interesting to see people that are appearing in the Carolinas and how green they look. They may not be green as a wrestler, but how green they look and as their outfits, makeup, whatnot. Next up is Tony Schiavone interviewing Ricky Steamboat. He's wishing everyone a Happy New Year. He's wearing a blue button jacket. He wore that most of the year in '84, and he says he's coming after Ric Flair for the World Heavyweight Championship. He says what's he now, a two-time champion? Actually, he was a three-time champion when he won it in '81 from Dusty. Second from Harley Race, Stark '83, and the third would be Kerry Von Erich, that Parade of Champions in May '84. So many times when you see videotapes of these shows, they very much often get the confusion of how many times Ric Flair was champion. That's a very confusing number. Many wrestlers have said, I'm coming after the Ric Flair World Heavyweight Champion. He's would have been a two-time, three-time champion, four-time champion. They often say that in many, many interviews throughout the years. They can never get the amount of times Ric Flair was champion. They're always between 2 and 3. They always confuse that number. Also, that Ricky Steamboat was wearing a Hawaiian lace. Being based, I guess he's out of Hawaii. But it's something the notes I had to throw about what they're wearing and what they're talking about. Actually, the first jobber match on this episode of Worldwide Wrestling, It was Tully Blanchard, and he's teamed up with Black Bart, Ron Bass, and their co-manager James J. Dillon is not at ringside. It's very much talked about, and they're facing jobber talent enhancements Tommy Lane, David Diamond, and Lee Ramsey. And Tony during this match is promoting the 50th anniversary of Jim Crockett Promotions, and it's called a kickoff of all year long. They're celebrating because Jim Crockett Promotions started in 1935 by Jim Crockett Sr. And 85 now, it's 50 years later, and they're gonna have a lot of things happen in 1985. At one point, the jobbers started to really rally back against the heels, Tully, Bart, and Bass. They really started a short rally back, and it was interesting the way they took it to them. And as all six men get in the ring, and it was because the jobbers made a comeback. But Tully ends the match with a slingshot suplex on Lee Ramsey. Now, the one thing that NWA Worldwide Wrestling was really famous for is its local promos, and it's a syndicated show. And so there are so many towns throughout the Carolinas, the Mid-Atlantic area, and this video is based out of the Virginia area. Because Tony Schiavone is doing local promos with announcing Bassett High School in Bassett, Virginia, and also Roanoke, Virginia, and also again they're going to have the kickoff of the 50th anniversary year at the Greensboro Coliseum, and though Greensboro is their mecca, is their major arena, and Ivan Koloff does the heel promo with a cage in front of the camera, which at first I didn't notice that. And Ivan Koloff, they're angry with Don Cornell. Ironically, he's an American, but Ivan Koloff was angry that Don Cornell, the Russians turned against. For a while, Ivan Koloff and Don Cornell were tag team champions, and they were a long-time tag team until they brought Nikita Koloff in, so they dropped Don Cornell, apparently. So now it's they're going to have a cage match in Greensboro. Ivan is promoing. We're gonna take you out, Don Cornell, and it's gonna be a lights out cage match. Nikita Koloff is standing right next to Ivan Koloff with a chain. That's when with a Russian chain match. Nikita Koloff has taken if you look at the magazines or videos, promos he ever did, he always has the chain and a leather strap that would go around your wrist. That's one thing it made, one of the early things that made Nikita Koloff look so big, badass, rough, that he had a Russian chain around his neck. Ivan Koloff did too. But also when Tony Schiavone talks about this big Greensboro, North Carolina show, and what Greensboro show in the 80s, 70s, all those decades, what Greensboro show wasn't huge amount of stars. One thing they noticed that there will be a $50,000 battle royal. At first, I thought it would be the Bunkhouse Stampede, but when I looked at the results, I don't think it was. But it turns out to be a $50,000 battle royal. So it was a promo by Tony Schiavone with the their heel promos for, and that's one of the coolest things about Worldwide Wrestling is their promos they did for every town. I mean, they took a day. If you listen to so many wrestler interviews from the Carolinas, how long? I think WWE did also. How they took an entire day of taping heel and face promos for every town. Holy cow! How many promo videos there must be out there in the WWE archives that they're purchasing? All the videotape library that we haven't seen yet. What town we are from, whether it been in Philadelphia, whether it been in Virginia, whether it been in Carolinas, how many video promos there are of all those towns, syndicated tapings. It must be an incredible amount. But Worldwide Wrestling was known for its local promos of the heel and faces. It is one of the coolest things about of the wrestlers. We're coming at it with heels come after faces, faces come after heels. It's one of the coolest things about Worldwide Wrestling. The next match on the episode is Joel Deaton is in the ring, the jobber, versus the Barbarian with Paul Jones, and apparently he's a new addition to Paul Jones. Paul Jones is not gathered his army yet. That probably happened around '86. but he's brought in the Barbarian, and he'll be bringing another guy in during the episode. And the one that he doesn't call the Barbarian Conga the Barbarian, which is later later in the year that Barbarian would be going by the name Conga. And I think Barbarian's makeup job never changed. Where I mentioned before, the Road Warriors are kind of cheap and green with their makeup yet. Where Barbarian, his makeup, I think it's best. I'm not sure if it gets any better than what we're seeing in this episode. It might be. Also, but when I said that neither Paul Jones or Tony Schiavone didn't call him Conga the Barbarian, but on his pants it spelled the word Conga. During the match, one thing I noticed that he gets Joel Deaton in a bear hug, and Tony says at the small of the back. But Barbarian's he has his both his hands locked on to Joel Deaton in his back, but it's on his butt. And how do you call that a bear hug if it's on his hands are applied to his the upper part of his butt? But Tony's calling it the small of the back. Now several times, Barbarian was gonna go. He climbs out the ropes. And it looked like he's going to the top rope. I'm thinking he's going for the flying headbutt, which is his finishing maneuver. He does it about 2-3 times. He doesn't go to the top rope. He goes outside the ropes, comes back in. Outside the ropes, he goes after Joel Deaton. He does this 2 to 3 times. I said, what? What's he doing? And then he just stands there and drops it. And it was Paul Jones say, like, finish the match, kind of. He yells, Barbarian, okay, just finish this. And then Barbarian stands there and drops himself down with a flying headbutt. And not a flying head, but he drops himself down. It's similar to Harley Race's dropping headbutt. But Barbarian is known for coming off the top rope with a high flying head, but he kept going outside the ropes 2 to 3 times. I says, what is he doing? But he just for the third or fourth time, he drops his body downward on the guy and drops a headbutt. And again, another now the 50th anniversary. They said when I thought it was going to be like, it sounded like the way Tony had originally said the 50th anniversary of Drink Rock Promotions. This year, but then he says kickoff promotion, like it starts in this Greensboro show that they're talking about. It's a kickoff rather than it's like the rest. It is going to be the rest of the year, but it's starts in Greensboro in January 6th. But he says kickoff rather than say one particular show. Okay, next promo. Tony Schiavone is talking with NWA television champion Tully Blanchard. He's held the title, I believe, since spring or May of 1984. He is now in a quest to look for, first starts as the ecstasy, the search for the perfect woman, the perfect 10. Oh man, if I'm looking back at this promotion, that would end up with Baby Doll, what turns out to be Baby Doll eventually. But he says the perfect 10, the perfect woman is going to be better looking than Bo Derek or Raquel Welch. And first he says to send postcards, letters, a portfolio. Then later he repeats the words. He says do not send postcards. He send letter. You can send letters, pictures, portfolio. Send however you want to look in a bikini, no clothes at all. This is Tully Blanchard. Many people, this is Tully Blanchard in real life. This is his attitude. A heel bad guy. He's always been this way his whole life. But this interesting search would turn out to be the birth and eventual how Nicola Roberts' Baby Doll comes into play. But this is the beginning promo that he called the promotion. He is in search of the perfect 10, and she's gonna have all this wealth and jewelry and furs, and to hang out arm in arm with the NWA television champion. Oh man, he ends up. I love this promo. He says, "Looking alive in '85." It's just that the arrogance. He sounds a lot more like Ric Flair would when Ric Flair, Ric Flair style and profile and. The arrogance of having any woman he wanted. He sounds a lot like Ric Flair would in this particular promo. He sounds a lot like Ric Flair looking for the perfect woman to hang out with. The perfect 10. They actually put up an address for women to send in pictures, portfolio, and they do. Apparently a lot of women do. So this is a very rare and interesting promo that Tony Schiavone talks with Tully Blanchard about looking for the perfect 10. It's really a rare and interesting promo that Tully Blanchard He sounds like Ric Flair talking, and looking for who eventually will become Baby Doll, eventually. The next promo is with Tony Schiavone interviewing Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champions Ron Bass and Black Bart, and Ron Bass also promotes. He's also the Mid-Atlantic Champion, and that's one thing WWF would never allow is a multiple title holder, and they did that with Backlund in the '80s Shade Stadium show. That him and Pedro Morales defeat the Wild Samoans, but immediately Bob Backlund can't that they can't hold the tag team titles. I never understood that match in the Shea Stadium show. But anyway, NWA, you could hold as many titles as you want. They had to vacate unless you wanted to vacate, because that has occurred in the history of the National Wrestling Alliance, where you're either a tag team title holder or you're a single title holder. I'm gonna go after World Champion Ric Flair, but I'm not gonna defend this title anymore. I'm gonna concentrate myself on going after the world title. And they surrender that title. It has happened. That again, it's brought up of that J.J. Dillon is the manager is not there with Bart and Bass, and Bass describes that because Dick Slater and others have been interfering with the heel matches with Bart and Bass, that J.J. Dillon apparently looking for a bounty hunter or some help to get stop their interference. Ironically, where the heels are the king of interference. So Dillon is looking for a bounty hunter or someone to back up Bart and Bass for to help them out in their matches. And they show a clip of the 6-man bunkhouse match that's been shown. There was a videotape put out in the late 80s that of a Worldwide Wrestling episode that showed this 6-man bunkhouse match. And I thought they were going to show the ending of this match. No, they show like a few seconds of it. That they're saying it was a 6-man bunkhouse match, but they call it. But Bart and Bass called it there was interference. No, it wasn't. But yeah, it's the heels complaining they need where their manager James J. Dillon is. And one thing I have to really I didn't acknowledge with Paul Jones yet and James J. Dillon is in 1985 in May. It's all year long. You're going to see them wear a tuxedo with a ruffle front their bow tie, and that's one thing that Jones and Dillon were known for, wearing their tuxedos to when they come to ringside with their men. But they later, in the next year, were changed to a suit and tie and an army outfit. It's just really curious. It says, this is what I'm going to do, is the observations of what they look like, what they're doing, what they're saying, that we really didn't pay attention to. So, it's things I'm going to take a look at, and it's things you notice. And this was a heel promo with Tony talking to Black Bart and Ron Bass, why James A. Dillon wasn't there. Okay, another jobber match is Assassin Number 1, which is actually, if anybody know us old school fans know, I don't know how they came to know these guys by their real names, whether by its records or they talked out their names. Jody Hamilton, who is the original Assassin Number 1. Apparently, the Assassins have changed team partners. I know I'm not sure, was it Ray Fernesto? I'm sorry, I'm off the top of my head. I'm trying to remember his original tag team partner back in '83, because it later was Hercules Hernandez in '84. But Assassin Number 1, Jody Hamilton, he's facing jobber Curtis Harrison, and this is what the one thing that caught me off guard was Tony Schiavone describing it was almost a quick match. I had to rewind the video and says what did he defeat him with. Tony Schiavone describes Assassin Number 1 as the man with the hands of stone. That became Ron Garvin's name. Oh man. But then when I looked back at how Assassin pinned him, it was like kind of a roundhouse right, or it was a right punch. It wasn't much of a punch that Ron Garvin would throw, like a boxing punch. It was just a kind of a roundhouse right. It was pretty much of a quick match for Assassin defeating his jobber Curtis Harrison. Okay, heel promo with Tony Schiavone talking to Paul Jones. Like I said before, Paul Jones is wearing this. He wore for a long, long time these uh, the tuxedo and ruffle front and bow tie, and it's one thing Paul Jones wore for a very, very long time. Um, he's going to talk about, he talked about he brought the Barbarian out. He's going to bring another guy out who's a really well-known legendary superstar, but he's bothered by the fans calling him Weasel. Now, I didn't notice that before, but the Weasel name is more applied eventually to Bobby the Brain Heenan in the WWF. Paul Jones says he's brought a middleman out, and they show a clip of him working with a jobber. Superstar Billy Graham appears here in Jim Crockett Promotions. And despite the fact, Billy Graham in his many interviews said, okay, it was just a paycheck for him. He really didn't make a big deal out of it. He was really succumbed by the steroid abuse, and he looked a little ragged. Like, yes, he's the big muscle-bound and guy, and many times that Billy Graham, who is one of the most influential superstars in history, from a WWE World Champion. He has a 23-inch pythons where Hulk Hogan, Jesse Ventura, so many people they idolized Billy Graham while watching him in Florida territory. But Billy Graham said one thing he did not like about working the Jim Crockett Promotions time period was Paul Jones called it, he has a martial arts in his bag, that he's doing this martial arts gimmick, and Billy Graham did not like doing this. And you can see he's got his hands are flat out, throwing kind of vague knife edge chops. Times he threatens a referee or threatens whomever he's with. But that Paul just talked about the 23-inch pythons. Even Billy Graham talked about how big his arms were. But the thing is, you look at Billy Graham in this time period, and Billy Graham has said that the steroids really were taking its toll on him at this time. He was I'm not talking about how, yes, he was big in muscles, but you also see how thin his body tone was getting kind of ragged. Maybe age was starting to catch up with him, and he knew it because of the steroid abuse. But he was still a big muscle guy. Oh yes, not denying that whatsoever. But this martial arts gimmick, Billy Graham really hated it. But it was just a paycheck for him, working for the territory. He beats the jobber with the full Nelson. Let me add on that, with the superstar Billy Graham facing his jobber, that I forgot to mention that he's facing Brian Adidas. He beats Brian Adidas with a full Nelson, and he practically, like a knockout in a sense, where the referee is picking Adidas' arms up about three times. He's out cold, kind of. Brian Adidas is he was a Von Erich friend out of the world class territory. That's if anybody knows Brian Adidas, he was friends or worked. I'm not sure if he was a heel or face. I really don't know, but I know he worked with the Von Erichs in the world class territory. So I had to add that on who superstar Billy Graham's jobber opponent was. All right, next match is Magnum TA. I became a big fan of who wasn't a big fan of Magnum TA. And the one thing about Magnum is his name, that apparently Tony Schiavone had said he had been on television for a few weeks, and he does his matches very quickly with the belly-to-belly suplex. Yeah, he did his matches in 5 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. This match with Doug Vine is lasting longer than normally. He usually does the belly-to-belly suplex very quickly. It may have been maybe 1 or 2 minutes, 3, maybe. He did some elbow lock, arm lock, what do you want to call it? A couple moves, but he finished Doug Vines off with the belly-to-belly suplex. He doesn't. The one thing that's cool about finishing maneuvers is when you do it so quickly that you don't. Holy cow! The belly-to-belly suplex or whatever finishing maneuver. That was one cool thing about any wrestler, whether it's heel or face, is when they do the finishing maneuver so quickly. They're not gonna deliver. They're not. They're gonna telegraph it. Gorilla Monsoon would say that about many WWF guys. They were telegraphing it, especially Shawn Michaels. He was stomping the ring. And that's telling people, here comes the super kick. Many of the old school wrestlers would deliver their finishing moves out of nowhere. That's what was cool about them. The Magnum TA name, as anybody's noticed, that he has the mullet, the blonde mullet, curly hair, and he did very much look like the CBS hit detective show Magnum PI, Tom Selleck. He did very much look like Tom Selleck. The face, mustache, the blonde, curly mullet. But yeah, it's the first. It's going to be the first match in 1985 that Magnum would appear. But he apparently even appeared a few more several matches, probably late '84. But Magnum TA was definitely a Dusty Rhodes protege. He came out of Florida, and he was the only thing I'm going to later much say that many interviews say that Magnum was being groomed in the 85-86 for the NWA World Title against Ric Flair. Yes, who didn't have matches with Ric Flair, but to say he was groomed for the World Title, I honestly did not see him world champion, U.S. champion. He can have it 1 to 5 times with many of the he should have regained it with Nikita, but Magnum was the U.S. champion. He can have world title matches. I did not see him becoming world champion. There was many superstars of Jim Crockett Promotions I did not see being world champion. Many of them. Magnum, tag team title, any singles title, world title. I think it'd been too soon. But who wasn't a big fan of Magnum TA? Next were some promos for the Greensboro January 6th show. Ric Flair, the Styling and Profound, suit, sunglasses, and all. He's he's promoting against. There was a promo against Harley Race for his world title match January 6th at Greensboro, the 50th anniversary kickoff show. And Tony Schiavone then does a promo with Don Kernodle behind a cage that Tom Kernodle and Ivan Clover are going to have a cage match in Greensboro. So it was first a heel promo by Ric Flair, then a face promo with Don Kernodle. To end the show, Tony Schiavone talks with the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. He talks about Don Kernodle and how Don Kernodle was once allied with the Russians, Ivan Koloff, and they were tag team champions. And suddenly, I have not yet seen how the heel turn was, or the face turn was, of Don Kernodle. Honest to God, it's one thing about wrestling is anybody can be, it takes the word push, that anybody who was a jobber, anybody who was a star, it can go back and forth. A star can go end up being, change a jobber based on, pay me enough money, I'll do what you want. But when the jobbers, many of these guys become superstars just with what they call the push. The promoter decides, okay, I'm going to put you with superstars, maybe give you a title run. Don Kernodle was one of those guys. But the thing was, in a sense, it's backwards, where Don Kernodle, he ended up becoming a jobber where he was a star. He allied with the Russians, and this is probably '84 film, and I know have not been privy to see yet. But Dusty Rhodes is talking about how Don Kernodle, he was kicked out of the Russians because Nikita Koloff was going to take his place, and it was Dusty Rhodes and Reginald Manny Fernandez. They had taken the title, they won the titles from Don Kernodle and Ivan Koloff. I believe it was a cage match, and now that he's defending Don Kernodle, that the Russians kicked him out, and Don Kernodle's seen the light. Become an American again, and they show the clips. They show clips of the apparently a flag match between Ivan Koloff, Don Kernodle in Charlotte on December 20th, 1984, and how Don Kernodle won the flag match. He climbed the pole, grabbed the American flag. He won the match. And then Nikita Koloff comes in and he clobbers Don, and Dusty comes out to save Don Kernodle. Now Dusty goes on about I love how he calls Ivan and Nikita communists. One thing I really got to talk about Dusty Rhodes is that his patriotism, a way let alone put himself over. He talks about he goes over a list of heels, so many heels, the bad guys, about the patriotism that Dusty promoted him, about this great country, and that there's so many, the bad guys, the heels, there's so many of them that they want to take down this country or take down Dusty Rhodes. Dusty, Flair, Jim Cornette. I'm saying the names that have the gift for gab. I've listened to so many interviews about who's the best talkers. They can talk for hours, days, about putting the show over, their country over there. Dusty was incredible. His patriotism, his promos for patriotism, Hulk Hogan had nothing on Dusty Rhodes when it comes to patriotism. Hulk Hogan couldn't come close. Wow, he can wear the yellow Hulkamania clothing and get the chant, the whole arena to pop for him and bring the American flag out. But Dusty would put over the country. He would put how important it is, the U.S. patriotism himself against the heels, against calling the Russians communists. That's what really Dusty was. Oh my God, so far past bigger than Hulk Hogan ever was when it comes to talking about patriotism versus Hulk Hogan's version of it. One of the interesting things he also mentioned was about Dusty talks about Ricky Steamboat, and he said 85 is going to be the year of Ricky Steamboat. Unfortunately, Steamboat, I didn't look up exactly when he would, but he's going to leave for the WWF sometime in 85. So, and the one cool thing that Dusty ends the show with, he tells they beep out the one particular word. The Russian can go straight to. He was saying hell. He's going to go straight to beep. Oh my God! For a syndicated show, they're so concerned about foul language. But that's my review of NWA Worldwide Wrestling for January 5th, 1985. If you like this video, please subscribe, comment, like or dislike, and thank you for watching.